Hello, my dear students. Standard 9th Computer and Computer Science NPT3. There are so many questions, so I am giving you some probable questions means which are coming in this examination. First of all, I am giving you all the question and then I am also going to explain you the answers. You can see the first very question that I have written is what is communication? Let's see one by one all the questions first and then we will move further in the answer. So question number two is list the barrier to effective communication. Explain any two. Then question number 3 is how an entrepreneur help the society. Who are they? What are the benefits of learning entrepreneurial skills? This is question number 4. Then question number 5. Explain the differences between sole proprietorship and partnership. Then question number 6 is explain with example that family background affect the entrepreneurial behavior of people. Question number 7. Why is it important to conserve natural resources? What are the advantages and limitations of oral communication? Explain with example. This is 8 number question. Then question number 9. How does the environment affect communication? Cite an example. 10 number question. Mention the 3 key skills required for self-management. Describe each one briefly. Then question number 11. Discuss the component of email account. Question number 12 is what is Aadhaar? List a few benefits of using Aadhaar. Question number 13. Discuss a few objectives of the Digital India movements. Then question number 15, which is the last question, is what is Linux? Discuss a few features of Linux. So, dear students, I am going to explain you all the 15 answers also. Because it happens that when you remember and you do not understand the answer, then it becomes very difficult to you to write the same in the examination. So stop rote learning and understand the answer and give the answer according to your mind and according to your key skills of writing. So let's see from question number 1. And the question number 1 is what is communication? See, you know very well communication is a two-way process in which two persons involved. Whatever I have written here, I am going to explain you the same. Communication is a two-way process of reaching mutual understanding, means two or more people understand and behave at the same time, in which participants not only exchange information, news, ideas and feeling, but also create and share a new meaning. Then we can say that is in this two-way process, one person is sender and he convey a message to another person or a group of person who is the receiver. When the receiver gets the message, he sends back a response acknowledging the message was received. So here in all you are getting the definition and the you can say the things that happens during the communication. communication is a two-way process of information exchange. The first paragraph says, and the second paragraph says that there is one sender and there is one receiver, and receiver receives the message and sender sends the message, and both understand and analyze, and then a new meaning also comes out of the communication. Now let's see question number 2. What are the barriers to effective communication? So the barriers to effective communications are environmental barriers, situational barriers, and individual barriers. I am going to explain you environmental barrier and individual barrier. Environmental barriers are the barriers that is in the environment or the surrounding. These are the physical conditions that affect the communication process. Means to say there is some tangible things which affect the communication. For example, defective instrument, poor lighting, uncomfortable sitting arrangements, and unhygienic condition distract listeners. Means to say one is unable to understand or listen properly the messages that is conveyed by the sender or the speaker. So these are included in environmental barrier. Now let's see what are individual barriers. Some of the individual barriers also affect communication, and those individual barrier is attitudinal. People belonging to certain age, gender, sometimes they lack in interest, and then discomfort with the topic, then culture and socio-economic or professional status define how a listener perceives and interpret the masses. Means to say that a person's attitudinal things, that is means attitude of a person also affect the communication. A person is not ready to listen if he is going to listen some younger or some child in their old age, and he or she may say that I am your father, you are not my father as you used to see in your home. But at many instances it has been observed that the information can be received, can be conveyed in any age, or by learning the things in any time. It do not matter whether a person is small or big, fat or thin. Now the second is, this is also individual barrier, that is linguistic ability. Some people have a speech disorder and they are unable to speak properly, and some people have problem in hearing, that is physical disability, and distort okay, so what it is written here, a speech disorders or other physical disability can distort communication. So some people may have hearing problem and they are unable to get the message properly. Then inattention means some person who are distracted, who don't have the attention on the listeners, then he or she may be unable to get the exact message that is being conveyed by the speaker. Inattention means if the listener is preoccupied or distracted or just not interested in the conversation, may result in an adverse effect on the outcome of communication. Another individual barriers is emotional skill. Emotion of the senders at the time of encoding the message and emotion of the receiver may lead to miscommunication. Means if someone is not feeling well or is not getting attached with the emotion of the speaker, or the speaker is unable to convey the message according to the receiver that he or she want to get, then communication may be may be affected, that is miscommunication may occur there. So these were the barriers of effective communication, and we had seen just the 4 barriers that is included in individual barrier, that is attitudinal, linguistic, inattention and emotional. Now let's see question number 3. How an entrepreneur help the society? Who are they? You have learned about entrepreneur, and entrepreneurship is creative and forward thinking. A skill, we can say. Entrepreneurship is a creative and forward thinking. Although business run on money, entrepreneurs are often focused on a great deal more than their bottom line, that is minimum benefits. Means to say, entrepreneurship is a way of doing some creative things, or thinking somewhat of future or somewhat different. Although business run on money, means to say business need money to run, but entrepreneur think about some improvement in the society, some great deal, and do not care too much about their benefit. They see the minimum benefit and do some innovative things. They help and contribute to society by leading the way and by finding innovative solutions to practical financial and social issues. So they are the person who think about the different problems and find the solution to practical financial and social issues. These words are important. You should write it in your mind for writing the same in examination, but you should have your own language. Now, who are they? An entrepreneur is a person who takes the initiative of starting a business, bears the risk of investing money, manages at all levels, and is responsible for its success or failure. So, entrepreneurs are the good persons, we can say, because they start the business and they take the risk of investing money and manages all the things at every level, and also being responsible for the success and failure of the business. So entrepreneurs are the businessmen. Now let's say question number 4. What are the benefits of learning entrepreneurial skill? Entrepreneurial skills are very important. See, what are the benefits? The following are the benefits. Let's see. The first one, it helps to think about new business idea. Means people used to create some new things in the society. It helps to cultivate skills and knowledge for starting an enterprise. So here people who become entrepreneur, they cultivate their skills, means whatever they have learned from their from the book or from their practical work experience. They use the experience and start an enterprise. It develop business skill in areas such as finance, sales, marketing, management, and accounting. So here you should remember this. These are the area which are important areas in which uh, skills are developed when a person become entrepreneur. Means by being entrepreneur, one develops the business skills in different area like finance, sales, marketing, management, and accounting. Then it helps in the development of other skills such as adaptability, effective communication, business discipline, and confidence. Means to say, people who are in business, they used to develop some additional skills also, and these skills include, you should remember this word, you should write the same in exam, because this word define the exact thing, that is adaptability. Means one person understand how to get adapted in different environment and in different market. Then effective communication, they learn how to speak and how to communicate the things. Then business discipline, they also learn the different business disciplines. And confidence, they gain confidence by the success of the business and at many other level also. Now let's see question number 5, that is explain the differences between sole proprietorship and partnership. Sole proprietorship and partnership differ in the following point. Let's see the point one by one. This is very good way to write the differences side by side, but you can also write in the paragraph. Sole proprietorship. In sole proprietorship, a business owned by a single person, means here one person is the owner, but in partnership, business is owned by two or more than two persons. There is no specific governing law. Since only one person is the owner, so he does all according to him, and there is no specific governing law. But here it is governed by the Indian Partnership Act. We have in India a Partnership Act in which laws has been defined, and accordingly business run in partnership. Then proprietor has to bear liability alone. Whatever the things there in the business, only one person is the owner, but here the liabilities is shared among the partners. Means all the partners share the liabilities. Proprietors is the sole decision makers, hence decision can be taken quickly. Mean to say, proprietors have the all authority of taking decision, and hence whenever there is requirement of quick decision, it become very easy in sole proprietorship. But at the same time in partnership it become difficult. Approval of all or majority of partners is necessary as per the agreement, hence there may be delayed decision. So this decision may comes delayed. Profit is solely earned, means one person alone earn the profit, but here the profit is distributed among the partners. Proprietor is the only source of capital, means one person is the investor, but here capital is brought by all the partners, means many two or more person who are involved in the partnership business, they all are responsible for bringing the capital and investment. So these were the differences. You may some more differences and write in exam. For further study, you can see in your book. Let's see next question, and the question number 6, it is explain with the example that family background affect the entrepreneurial behavior of people. So family background, let's see whether it affect the entrepreneurial behavior or not. Background of a family business also influence entrepreneurship. It is very natural that the family having the background of business influences the younger people or the next generation to go in the same business or field. Youngster who belongs to the business family often join their family business. Means the small children who starts seeing all the things in the home, they learn a lot of things in the home, and after completing their study they come into their family business because it is very easy to understand those all the things. So they learn business skills from their elders. They often evolve their business according to the changing culture and take it to a greater height. Since one learns all the things from the elder by seeing the things exactly, by going around the business, so he or she is able, he or she or belonging to from business background family are able to do or manage business in better manner. An example of such family are Tata, then Godrej, Ambani, Birla, Bajaj. These are the well-known business family of India. Okay, now let's see question number 7. Why is it important to conserve natural resources? It is important to conserve natural resources because as we continue to overuse the natural resources, a serious natural imbalance will be caused in the environment and many natural resources may soon get exhausted. It means that if we people use more natural resources, then the environment become imbalanced and also the natural resources will be exhausted forever. So it is important to conserve natural resources. You can add it the last. Okay, it is already added in the first, or you may add it in the last. Okay, now let's see question number 8. What are the advantages and limitations of oral communication? Explain with example. So, following are the advantages of oral communication. Let's see what are the advantages. It is interpersonal and help in building relationship. Means when people talk in front or orally, then there is chances of bonding. Means people understand the things clearly as it is explained according to the requirement. Second advantage is it encourages involvement in teamwork and decision making process. If we are doing oral communication, then it is very good when if we have to form or carry out some teamwork or decision making process. Oral message provides prompt feedback. Means As you convey the message, the receiver responds at the same time and you get the feedback. It is cost efficient, means you do not need to write on the paper and you have to you do not need to process them, so it is very easy and cost efficient. It is preferred mode of communication for private and confidential matters. For example, you can't share the password or things or the private things in written. There is chances of leak. I have given the example here because we need to give also the example. Here it is given, explain with example. So example is, if someone have to explain the way of cooking, washing, etc., then one should use oral communication. Also, we need to communicate password of bank, etc., only in oral, otherwise there is chance of leak. But it happens that the passwords of the bank comes in written to us, but once it is with us, we cannot convey it in written uh, by in our letters uh, or another. We need their oral communication, but there should not be telephonic communication, so it is exceptional. You may write some other example. Now let's see what are the disadvantages of oral communication. The first one is emotional visibility can lead to miscommunication. Means if you someone is emotional or someone is laughing at saying the serious thing, then it become a miscommunication. You have seen many times in televisions it comes that, and the foreigner, the leaders were laughing, so how they are not good, and such type of thing come many times. So emotional visibility can lead to the miscommunication. It required that whatever you are saying, the same thing should be on your face and in your expression also. It has no legal validity. If you are talking orally, then it is not valid, because one may arise questions that you are not saying the correct way, and you need then written communication. That is, for validation you need some books or some written things. It does not provide a permanent record and the message can easily be forgotten. Means to say, one cannot remember the exact thing, the or the whatever the things happens permanently for all the time, and hence it is not a permanent record. Due to variation in accent and pace, sometimes messages are not communicated exactly. Sometimes happens that people from outside the country, when visit some other country or comes to our country, then we are unable to get the messages that is being conveyed by them. People talking about politics or event become variant from one place to another place. This is an example. It happens that it becomes rumor of when a message travel from one person to 50 or 60 persons, because there a variation comes, and this variation after traveling long distance become very different. So these were the advantages and disadvantages of oral communication. The example. Now let's see question number 9. How does the environment affect communication? Cite an example. Means you have to add an example. So The environment affects communication in both positive and negative way. There may be some good thing or there may be some bad thing depending upon the environment. So what are environment? Means around the things or around our around us, whatever we are seeing, that is called environment. For example, you can see environmental context refers to the physical location or when and where the communication is taking place. Hence, it has a positive and negative effect on interpersonal communication. Means, depending upon when and where the communication is taking place, the communication is affected positively or negatively depending upon the situation. For example, some students do not speak up in the class while some students enjoy and learn more from classroom discussion. Here, classroom is the environment which is affecting communication. Means it happens that due to the presence of teachers and many of the students, a student unable to convey, unable to give the answer of certain question due to hesitation. But at the same time, some students take the chance and speak the answer, showing that he or she is good in study and he has learned the answer. Now let's see question number 10. Mention 3 key skills required for self-management. Describe each one briefly. So, you know what is self-management? Means controlling your own emotions. So these are the 3 different things. Self-management comprises 3 key skills. That is, first one is initiative, second is one organization, and the third one is accountability. Let's explain this all the things. Initiative means in identifying a problem and working to solve a problem without told what to do, without any instruction. Your mind analyze it automatically. This is a type of self-management in which a person identify the problem, means face some problem and try to solve without anybody help or without anyone instruction. Organizational skill. It includes defining tasks, means arranging the things, managing time, and then preparing and sticking to your schedule. Means being responsible by having managing time and then preparing and being stick to the schedule, whatever the things is made or defined. And the last one is accountability. It means holding yourself answerable for the completion of the task. Means you calculate the exact time when the work is going to finish. It involves avoiding procrastination, adopting a solution-centered attitude, managing for emotion, and coping with distress. Means it is a very wide term in which we need to avoid procrastination and then adopt a solution-centered attitude. Means you need to focus on your work and then manage emotions also, and then you have to manage your distress. These are the accountability. Now let's see question number 11. Discuss the component of email account. See, email account have the following 3 components. The first one is username, the second one is domain name, and the third one is domain extension. What is username? It is the name of a person's account, means it can be your name, or which can be actual name, that is actually here it is written. It may be actual name or a word or a phrase. It may be a word or a phrase. Then what is domain name? It is the location of the person's account on the internet, means where it is being kept. Then the last one is domain extension. It is specified after the domain name and indicates which type of organization is providing the email account. Like this, you can see it is .com, so it is commercial, so it indicates that which type of organization is providing the email account. So this one is this is the name defined by the user, that is username, and then this is the domain name. Here on the Gmail account is kept, and the extension is commercial, that is com. Now let's see question number 12. What is Aadhaar? List a few benefits of using Aadhaar. It is important question for exam. Aadhaar is a 12-digit unique identity number issued to the citizens of India by the Unique Identification Authority of India, that is UIDAI, under its Digital India mission. So in Digital India missions, it is a 12-digit unique identity number. And some of the benefit of the Aadhaar are as follow. The first one is Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. This is a scheme which let you to open bank account using your Aadhaar card. The second one is Digital Locker. Its government facilitation in India, means it is facilitated by the government, by which we can have our documents like DL, that is driving license, then educational certificates like matric, inter, graduation, master, whatever the things, then marriage certificate, vehicles registration certificate, etc. can be stored electronically and can be accessed, can be opened, can be seen and verified as and when required. Whenever we require, we can get the things digitally from anywhere. Then the third benefit is direct benefit transfer LPG subsidy. With the help of connecting Aadhaar, you can see here under this Aadhaar number is linked with the 17-digit LPG consumer number. Means those persons who are having Aadhaar and LPG connection, the both numbers are interlinked, and subsidy amount that is given by the government is get transferred into the bank account with the help of Aadhaar. Then voter ID linking. Voter ID that is linking voter ID with Aadhaar number has helped to prevent impersonation or fraud during election. During election, someone no one can give the vote for another person, and for assuring such type of thing, voter ID is also linked with the Aadhaar number. This is also the benefit of Aadhaar. And the last one, that is the fifth one, is monthly pension and provident fund. By connecting by the what is written here, the provision to link these useful funds with Aadhaar has simplified the process of auto transfer in case of employment change or correction in account holders details like name, date of birth, etc. Means monthly pension or provident fund if someone is getting, then it is directly transferred to the bank account, and also it's accessing the pension or provident fund account become easy, and one can change or manage this name, date of birth, etc., the information that is given in the Aadhaar. Now let's see question number 13. Discuss a few objectives of the Digital India movement. So what are the objectives of Digital India movement? Means what are the goal of the Digital India movement? The first one is connecting rural area with the high speed internet or network. Okay, so the first one is very important. So you can see government policy is to connect the villages or the village area with the network or high speed internet. The second one is creating job opportunities, means giving job to the youth. Development of digital infrastructure, means to say there's this Digital India aims at providing infrastructure, that is roadways and then transportation and the all the things that is set up for the good or the high standard living. Then the last one is availability of government service to Indian citizen. Whatever the things that is uh, framed or government services that is come should be access to all the citizen, and this can be assured with the help of Digital India movement. And now we have reached to second last question, that is what are the various categories of operating system software. So a system software can be categorized or classified into the following four categories. The first one is operating system. So operating system is a type of system software, and then this device driver. Each and every device have its device driver, like mouse, this keyboard, pen drive. All the things have its device driver, and that is get installed automatically when we plug it into the CPU. Then language processor, that is compiler interpreter, and then utility software, means the additional software that is used to make our work easy, like calculator or some accessibility option, etc. Now let's see the last question, what is Linux? Discuss a few features of Linux. So Linux is what we can see here. You should remember, it is very important. Linux is the operating system. It is an operating system, but this operating system is open source, means it is free, open source and free. It was developed by, who developed Linux? It was Linus Torvalds. Okay, Linus Torvalds in the year 1991 discovered this or developed this Linux operating system. Some features of Linux operating system are, first one is portable, means it can run on any platform, in any hardware. The second one is open source and free. It can be downloaded from internet. It is free and distributable. Multi-user and multi-programming. It supports multi-user and multi-programming. What is multi-programming and multi-user? Multi-user means the same system can be accessed, or user can access the system resources simultaneously, hence multi-user, and more than one program can run at the same time, and that's why it is multi-programming. So you got a point, that multi-programming means that more than one programs can run on the system at the same time, whereas multi-user means that more than one person can work on the computer at the same time. Then another features of Linux is shell. Linux provide an open source shell called bash. What is bash? Born again shell. Here you can write command and run the operating system. And the last one is security. Linux is highly secured against the viruses, so we need not an antivirus software to scan regularly. So it is virus protected. We need not to uh, install antivirus if we are having this one Linux operating system in our laptop or computer. So student, these were the part 1. For part B or part 2, please wait. I am giving in few minutes. Okay, so remember these all the questions. These are important for your examination, and if you have any problem in understanding or getting certain word or certain sentences, then you may write in comment. I will give you the answer. You can write in my WhatsApp also. Thank you, friends. Bye bye.